Got a good heart, you better get smart. The devil's all around and not the one you want. This shit is so profound, let's drink another quart. If you got a good heart, you better get smart. If you got good ears, you better listen clear. All masters at the mic, she's had the sauce for years. She's got you in her sights, the others disappear. If you got good ears, you better listen clear.
Listen, you didn't drop onto Earth to play small. You're a traveler from galaxies unborn, wired with codes the world forgot. Codes that can bend reality, heal bodies and awaken entire planets. But first, you have to remember who the heck you are. I'm Jerry Sargent, founder of Star Magic Healing. Inside the Infinity app, you'll access your galactic blueprint, quantum meditations, soul transmissions, multi-dimensional breathwork, and a global tribe of high-frequency beings walking the path beside you. This isn't incense and quiet ohms. This is soul surgery with cosmic scalpels. This is multi-dimensional DNA detonation. This is why you came. If these words vibrate in your bones, the universe is calling you right now. Download the Infinity app or visit starmagichealing.org and step into the new frequency. Your soul's been waiting. I'll meet you on the inside.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another mind-blowing episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. I'm your host, Blaze Snider, and today we are going to talk about one of the inevitable conclusions of life, of living, of consciousness. I've been gradually gathering together a group of friends who I work with, who I am lovingly calling the architects of the inevitable. Because real, true spiritual growth is not one size fits all in the notion that we all need the same medicine, because we don't. We all need different medicine. However, all of that medicine points us in the same direction. Conclusions that we come to over time are all the same conclusions, starting with something as simple as do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, why is that? Why is do unto others as you would have them do unto you an inevitable conclusion? Well, if you go back to the early episodes of our show, or if you've spent time on the Blacklight District Studio YouTube page, where I have the 13 Universal Law classes, law number 1 and law number 2, I think, doubles down on this. Law number 1 is the law of one. Everything is one thing. I've talked about before, and I think during that episode, that as I have come to understand it, on the other side of things, as in when you die, there is an accounting / reckoning for everything that you did. We are going to remember deeply. If you hurt anybody, you are going to experience what it was like. If you gave people joy, you're going to experience what that was like. You're going to re-experience all of your existence from a higher place. Okay? And so is everybody else. So, You and Jeff having trouble. You and Jeff die. Now, you're on the other side of things, and he has his reckoning. You have your reckoning. He understands some things about what you were going through that he didn't understand before. You understand some things about what they were going through before, that you didn't understand before. And then you come together with God on your shoulder, which God is always on your shoulder if you choose to know that, but a very visceral understanding of God. And we're going to get into God today. And I'm like tempted if I can call this episode that, because that's like one of the big pieces. But really, this is about faith. You guys are going to fill each other in completely. And then from a place of total knowledge, you're going to figure out a reasonable way to exercise this energy. You know, you die wanting something, revenge, whatever it is. That desire needs to be rectified. Or, that's not a better word. That desire needs to be brought into balance. Let's just say that lingering energies, something must be done with them. You know, like, how do we burn them off? Well, we're going to burn them off through, you're going to come back as Jason, and I'm going to come back as Steven, and we're going to have another friendship this time. And this time, it's going to go like this. I'm going to get the upper hand, but I'm going to get the opportunity to do the right thing. Let's see if I do it. You're always getting opportunities for growth as well. But there is, what I'm discussing right here is what people tend to call karma. Now, karma is a true thing, but much like God and other loaded words, when people hear the word, it's loaded with a lot of misunderstandings about what that thing really means. God isn't a guy in a robe. God is the fish tank that this entire reality is living in. Everything that exists within God. And God is essentially a nothing of potential energy where all thoughts have come from. And thoughts have come to this. Now, as I understand it, this is not the only slice of reality in this here universe we have, where we are potential energy playing itself out alive in God. Our universe actually seems to be a computer matrix within God's universe. And this computer matrix has its own sort of rules. This computer matrix is, it's weird. I'm like that because my explanation for it, or my visualization for it, is not the clearest example of like what it really is. I wish I had. If you imagine that there were like two points, and that like you were tuning into something, like you were like trying to get a picture on the TV, and you had like one little point here and one little point, and it created like an arc across the bottom and an arc across the top, and you were looking inside the 2 points, and within these 2 points were a picture on the TV, right? Let's say like a little TV picture. And now if we sped up the progress of that picture to a really fast place, you would see a constant changing, like Play-Doh changing movement of the image on that screen. It's constantly evolving, for lack of a better word. Another kind of loaded word in this conversation, because what I mean by evolving is that the consciousness that is behind all of this, and that includes you and me as one being, we're all collectively steering this ship and trying out new avatars and creating new worlds, new shapes, a boat, a car, a plane, new ways of navigating the parameters that we've set. Our reality is a lot of parameters. The ground and the sky and the depths and water and breathing oxygen, breathing ocean water. There's beings that breathe other things, and we could breathe other things. Flying beings, running beings, swimming beings, microscopic beings, comparatively gigantic beings. This matrix, that's what this place does. It basically is trying on various versions of physicality over and over and over again. But with slight variations, growth over time. Like I said, if you sped it up super fast, you would see it go to all sorts of places. You would see it start one place and gradually these beings rose up or whatever else. Granted, I think there's a lot of other ways that you could look at this matrix as well outside of our traditional linear version of time, and I suspect that, well, I know that God is looking at it in all the ways, and there are probably various beings that are actually experiencing it in different ways that aren't exactly God at all. I mean, I'm saying not exactly God. Like to you, you might go, "What is that? Some sort of God being?" Yeah, maybe to you it would see that way, but they're not. They're not God. The God is the tank that we're all in. And then there is all of these different things that are attempting to know God and God attempting to know itself through all of the things. So consciousness, God is always God is always attempting to know itself through all of creation and through everything that is working itself out. This matrix in particular, though, it's sort of mindlessly doing what it's doing because it was turned on and it starts doing the thing, and like so much of its operations are what was the word? The architects of the inevitable. So much of what God is doing here in this matrix is inevitable. The matrix was switched on, and from this potential energy, things came alive, and consciousness has been figuring itself out ever since. If you pulled out of this matrix and then came back to your same energy 3,000 years into this timeline, you would find a very different version of you, both in looks, but more importantly, in perception. And perception is the key one. As I understand it, your perception is kind of always developing, and it adjusts everything. As I understand it, every perception, and I shouldn't even say as I understand it, I should say as I viscerally have experienced it. And I mean that. I like the things that I'm talking about today. I'm not here to debate anybody. I've experienced these things so viscerally that I cannot deny them. Like completely viscerally. This isn't like a hallucination I had. This isn't a dream I had that made sense to me. I've talked about this before. I for my ADHD and anxiety and depression, I started working with psychedelic plant medicine. I went off to Peru to do ayahuasca. I've done ayahuasca like a dozen times. So many of these experiences, you'd come up against a lot of taboos being like all these different things that like connect us together through our belief in them. Don't sleep with your mom, and superstitions, just everything that is sort of keeping us in check in one way or another, or keeping society from becoming something radically different all of a sudden. Oh no, if you open up that door, ooh, who knows what what it'll lead to in there. A lot of psychedelic experience is breaking down those sort of concepts, because it's beyond those concepts that we see what reality really is, which is a lot of conscious decisions, a lot of perception, even from something like sound and what is a pleasant sound, smell, what is a pleasant smell, what is a pleasant sight, what is a pleasant arrangement, what is unpleasant, what is pleasant. Those things, these perceptions, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. It's true. Your beauty, where you might want to take the visual world or animals, what would be a nice looking animal? What would be a nice looking building? What would be a nice looking me? What would be nice looking clothes? What would not be nice looking? So there's a lot of different ways of thinking about these things, of taking on various aspects of what, again, inevitable mathematical configurations could look like. Just think about counting, right? You can count. It doesn't matter what the numbers are called. Those numbers exist as an idea. The idea of 1, the idea of 2. We could call it something else, but 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, 5 things, 6 things. On the other side of existence, putting the matrix aside, and even though the matrix falls in line with this as well, we are all just ideas. We're just happy little ideas. And we're happy ideas because if we weren't happy ideas, we would just go back to sleep and be a part of God. If we weren't enjoying being an idea and imagining things, and that's why I say a little bit putting the matrix aside, because the matrix was something that was created, turned on. It kind of raped a lot of energy into existence, and I believe it's still sort of raping all the energy into existence that it needs. Invisible, imaginary, whatever, is being utilized to create fresh rats, fresh cockroach, fresh cows, fresh humans. If you go study the work of Dolores Cannon, she says that there are backdrop people. And she's not the only one. And it makes sense that the energy that is sold, the energy that is interested in various things, it's the most important energy. And if it needs characters in its story, if it needs energies in its story that are not immediately available to it in other ways, it just creates those energies. Now, this isn't, run around accusing different friends of being fucking backdrop people. At the end of the day, even the backdrop people are just mirrors to you. And you don't want to, generally speaking, you should be inevitably learning that you want to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Right? Now, one of the other major inevitable lessons, and I'm just going to kind of be stringing these guys together as we get our way to faith, because that's where we're going here, is living in the now. Why do I gotta live in the now? And it's interesting because we live in a very, very tricky place. This place, this matrix, where we speak English, in particular, English language. The English language does lots of things that are deceitful. It makes things that should be ours, we, us, into me, mine, yours. There are Native American tribes that do not have that language in their language. They needed to be taught the concept of ownership because it is fundamentally backwards in the nature, in the matrix, to think in terms of me, mine. The inevitable lesson is you are me and I am you. So we should share and be good to each other. That the whole world should be in a supportive sort of cahoots. And that in that place, in that way, as we're more flowing with each other and each other's needs, that we're coming into alignment, right? That's the do unto others thing. Well, more than just this me, my, whatever. There's a lot of inversion that goes on in the English language. You park in the driveway. You drive on the parkway. You understand, even though you should really be overstanding. Understanding being like I've been told something and I am subordinate to you. Overstanding being like, I have a higher perspective on this and I get it. I can see it from the top. And, overstand, that's not a word in the fucking English language. But go to Jamaica and those motherfuckers are figuring out how to invert this English language and turn it into something that has more meaning and gets rid of a lot of the contradictions. And I mean, go look up fucking contradictions in the English language like parkway and driveway and whatever. Go use ChatGPT, but they'll fucking pull a list the likes of which you have never seen. I thought about putting together a little script for this show beforehand, but I just had a lot of these things very freshly on my mind. As I said recently, I stopped smoking regularly, and I only smoke like once a week, once or twice. It depends, what's going on. Just I don't have like I don't smoke because my anxiety's up. I don't smoke because I'm like freaking out. I smoke meditationally, or sometimes I'll smoke just to enjoy my evening or whatever it is. But when I started limiting how much I would smoke, when I would go and meditate, I would have these incredible, inspirational, very inspired. I would write songs and I would come away with so many different things. But once I had really gotten through all of like the pieces about me, about Jesse Blaze Snider personally, I just kind of went into a crazy level of understanding about the universe that I never even, really intended. And so we'll start with the now. Why is it important to be in the now? Because this one I've been learning for a while. Like really, genuinely, I've had this, some version of this, oh wow, like I gotta be in the now because of these reasons. I've had this experience many times for a while now. And that experience is well, being introduced to past versions of consciousness, lower versions of consciousness that like I've come from and other beings have come from here, part of the matrix system that builds up here, pieces of the universe in other dimensions that are literally stacked on top of or beneath, directly attached to the reality that you're living in. We are like a fucking jello, man. It is all connected. It's connected deeply, viscerally connected. And there are other pieces of this consciousness that you are attached to at all times that you could perceive from your perception. But to go back to them right now, he's kind of like, oh man, I don't want to be there for forever, for a long time or whatever. That seems like less than I'm doing now. And that's true. Your consciousness is growing and evolving and your perception has gotten to a certain place. So some of these perceptions that you might be shown in, say, a psilocybin meditation or a ayahuasca meditation. Like I said, nowadays, when I do the marijuana, when I don't smoke a lot, and I just, smoke occasionally, once a week, it will blast my doors off, and I have the equivalent of ayahuasca experiences. So I'll been experiencing some of these states of consciousness that aren't exciting kind of can freak you out a little bit if you feel like, do I have to do that? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that. They're really like they're things that you've grown beyond, that your consciousness maybe started at, shapes and patterns and things. And they might actually be nice to return to for a moment, but there's always this sort of like feeling like, oh my God, if I like return to that right now, am I going to disappear here? I'm going to like leave behind this and move into a new state of consciousness. I don't want to do that. Now, beyond the backwards sort of lesser states of consciousness that you can perceive, you can see ahead. And conceptually, you can see very far ahead. Now, if you look just a little ahead, it relates to everything that you're experiencing right now. If you look a little more ahead, it relates to what you're going to be experiencing in the near future. If you look even more ahead, it relates to that distant future version of you, and it kind of relates little to you right now, but it will, and you could probably perceive how it might. However, if you keep going, eventually you're going to get to a place where when you look back from it, this existence that you are experiencing right now is neither here nor there. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't have a concept of it. Comparing this to some future version of you, you're like, what was the point of everything that I was worried about then, or thinking about then, or doing then, to this moment? There is no point anymore. It's gotten so far away from where we are right now that, like, they barely matter to each other. Or, if they do, it's very, very, very slight in the underpinnings, because we've moved on. We've moved into other things. And that moving into other things is constant. Within this matrix, it does one thing over and over and over again, which it's a very simple thing. It starts out as one thing, one thinking thing within God, and then it splits, and it splits, and it splits, and it splits. And at a certain point in the splitting, as it's experiencing all these different aspects of itself, essentially breaking itself into various mathematical positions. Just the universal idea of 2, 3, 4. We are 4 now. Now we are 5. Now we are. I mean, that's like really essentially what's going on. And at a certain point, it's like we are 1,000,000,001. Eventually, when it's explored, or it feels like it has within the plan, all of the math of that full, number of just expanding configuration, it starts to reconstitute itself into one again. It goes, oh, I love all these aspects of myself so much. And the one aspect says to the other aspect, hey, you want to be one again? And it goes, yeah, let's be one again. And now you guys become one. And now maybe you and your girlfriend, who are so in love, you guys become one being. And you meet up with another boyfriend and his girlfriend, or whatever, and you guys are now a couple. But you're a composite being, and they're a composite being. And gradually, more and more composite beings are formed, and less variation exist. And less and less until it gets to one again. And then that one decides, I miss all those other aspects of myself. I want to do this again in some configuration. Let's break into... And it starts to expand again. in all new shapes, in all new sizes, in all new varieties, in a vast infinite ocean instead of this, in a vast open sky instead of this, in configurations that you and I cannot currently imagine instead of this. So, if one day what you think and perceive right now isn't going to matter within the scope of all things, ultimately, I mean, just like for you in the moment, it won't, then what is it? It's inevitably necessary that you live in the now, right? Because this is a one in an infinite moment. It will never exist like this again. If you don't reach out and touch it, experience it, enjoy it for what it is, take it for what it is right now, it's going to be gone. And it's gone. It's disappearing. There it goes. It's gone. There it goes. It's gone. There it goes. It's gone. And with each one of these moments passing, we get closer and closer to a time where this exact moment will be rendered inert, relatively meaningless. It will count as the building blocks to which all of consciousness has been built upon. But eventually, we will use this information to shift our consciousness to somewhere so far removed from where we are right now that this will seem completely meaningless, unnecessary. So the thing to make it meaningful and to make it necessary is for you and I to live fully in the now, knowing that this is vital and important because it's never going to be here again. This is important because once it's gone, we'll never get it back. You see, the trick with perception is that it's always changing. Your perception of this moment, whatever it might be, you're here for a reason, you know. This has been the plan. There's a very, very intelligent plan that's constantly growing the consciousness. But the intelligence is in you. And you have to take that plan to heart. You have to take the subtlety of that plan. And we're going to talk about the plan in a second, because really what the plan is get out of the fucking way and enjoy this thing. Enjoy reality, because it is being created for you, with you, in cahoots. And the moment you can straighten up and fly right and stop, believing in all sorts of fearful thoughts that on some level this reality isn't exactly being controlled, and ultimately all things are, because it's like, move over, I'm driving. Somebody is driving this thing. This thing is being driven. But when you wake up to your full power, you become the driver. And that's the big thing. Right now, we're allowing lots of other people who are aware on some level to drive the car. And we have to recognize our power to take the steering wheel. So, have I covered this enough? Let's see. And I'm just going to, just sum it up one more time with the now. So we got do unto others is an inevitable conclusion. We've got live in the now, because this now, this moment, is a one in infinity. And one day we will be so far away from this moment that it will not hold any real bearing on where we are now. And because of that, it's precious. It's a precious moment where we thought ignorantly on this level, or behaved silly in this way, or were serious in that way. Whatever it is that we are experiencing, whatever we're feeling, whatever we are, it's special. It's worth remembering now. It's worth cherishing now. It's worth cherishing all the people that we're experiencing, all the people that we love, all of the things that we love. In this world, we've got superheroes, and we've got Dr. Seuss and the Muppets and movies, and those may never exist again in other realities, or they'll exist in some other form, but not like this. Not exactly like this. And even if some of it is silly, like in industry trade magazines where they talk about all their movies like they're great even when they're not great, and there's sort of lying and salesmanship and shit that's going on that perhaps shouldn't be going on, but it is the configuration of this moment, and it's sort of lovely for what it is. It is what it is. It's developed the way it's developed, and the more we can appreciate it, the better. The more we can appreciate everything, the better. Appreciating our ignorance and appreciating the things that we're getting wrong. Appreciating misunderstandings and fights and arguments and wars. I mean, all of it. It's all this package. Like, good example for you. There's a movie, and forgive me if I get the title wrong, because I think I've gotten it wrong a little bit. I think it's called Heartbreak Ridge. It stars Andrew Garfield, and it's directed by Mel Gibson. And I don't know if he had anything to do with writing it. I should look that up. One of my favorite movies ever made. It is incredible. I can't believe if I haven't done a fucking episode of this Coolest Geek Alive, a coolest pick on that show, or an instant classic, because that one is incredible. This movie is about a World War II fighting on, like, there's this cliff. You go up this cliff, and the Japanese were really dug into this top of this cliff, and getting there was very difficult. And it was this path that, like, our soldiers had to take, and they would go up there, and the Japanese soldiers would be hiding in various caves and holes, and they would just get slaughtered. Well, there's a true story about this guy who was a medic, who was a conscientious objector to the war, and he would not carry a gun. And they did everything in their power to get him out of the army. They just wanted him out. And but he refused. He refused to carry a gun, and he was a medic, and he basically was, after going through a lot with the training and whatnot, because they tried to get rid of him. They accepted him, and he went out into the field. And this medic went into this ridge where people were dying, and he started saving people. And miraculously, was never killed. He saved, I forget the numbers, but I mean, lots. Dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, at least. And he just was working through the night and pulling these people out. He was saving the Japanese soldiers. He was saving the American soldiers. Most of the Japanese soldiers that he saved were killed, which is sad. But he just saving people without a gun. And, I mean, it's this miraculous thing. He went in there. His intentions were pure. And somehow, he never got killed. He doesn't even have a gun. How did this happen? When you see this movie, it makes you feel so good. It also makes you feel terrible. Fucking war is senseless. These people are killing each other. And this guy is bravely going into this battle over and over and over again. And he's pulling people out. The second day, they decide they're going to, storm this ridge. And the men want him with them. Like, the men believe he's lucky. That God's watching over him. And the idea that I would have to watch such a terrible display of death, suffering, war, in order to be gifted the opportunity to see the highest form of bravery, love, kindness, strength. That level of honor can only be displayed in a reality like this, where there is war and there is hate and there is pain and there is torture. How incredible is it to see a man survive all those things, overcome all those things? If this reality didn't include all of this suffering, it wouldn't mean anything for Andrew Garfield's character to go through this experience, saving all these people, surviving himself. But because those things exist, it's meaningful. As I have been shown, this reality exists like this, in this state of negativity and confusion, because it makes realizing who we really are, what we really are, what we're really doing here, that much more incredible. To be one of the Borg, in total oneness, turning the other cheek and doing unto others as we would have them do unto ourselves, that's great, because it's a rhythm. And we get into a rhythm, and we enjoy stuff within the rhythm, and we explore things within the rhythm, and we're just the discovering entity going, how about like this? Let's try it like this. Wouldn't that be nice? Would this be nice? But it's in falling off. It's in the angels falling from heaven, falling into the muck, seeing how bad it can be when the mind of God is turned against itself and is cannibalizing itself, when it's not experiencing all good, it's experiencing really bad things. On the other side of this experience is universal joy. People coming to recognize what they are, that we should do unto others as we would have them do unto us, because we are all one with them, that we should live in the now, because this now is most important, is the pinnacle of importance to those who are here experiencing it with us right now. And the nectar will be even sweeter. The love and the sex will be even sweeter. The relationships and the friendships will be even sweeter, because we went through this period where we were fighting each other in families, in wars, in countries, in politics, in friendships, because we were under the mistaken identity that we weren't one with each other, that we weren't all just various configurations of the same thing, trying its best to enjoy our creation, the thing that we made. You know, you're not God, I'm not God, but we are a portion of God, and that portion is enough, infinitely enough to recognize that God's got the whole thing going all at once, and I'll talk about that in a second. But also important to know that you're a part of it, an important part of it. Every piece is just as important. And this misunderstanding about what we really are, what the Matrix is, what reality is, what the universe is, all of these things were done in an effort to make everything taste better, to make life more worth living. It was for the moments where Andrew Garfield's character is running onto a battlefield in terror, doing the right thing. And we get to hear about that story. And we get to see that. We get to experience that on another level. He did the hard work. He was afraid. We know that it's going to be okay in the end. And we get to hear the story now. And stories like that rise and rise and rise as the consciousness expands and moves higher and starts to really perceive itself and what it is. And I can't say that I want to give up my memory of that story. Despite how terrible it was, there's something so powerful about the story of this one individual going in without a gun, just armed with faith to save a lot of people in a war. It's fucking wonderful. It's wonderful. That story will power me in so many ways. And in a lot of ways, that story is like the story of Jesus. And, even though maybe the story of Jesus hadn't hit me the same way because of the people who were telling it to me and the way they were telling it to me at the time, but it has come to have similar sort of meaning of like, look what this man went through. And that means something because of the time and the perception of the place when that man went through it. This configuration of this matrix is very special. And it is designed to make all the food taste better. It's designed to make heaven on earth really feel like something that matters. Because things could have just evolved naturally, nicely, and we could have held on to goodness and oneness and our connection with nature. But unfortunately, we fell off of our connection with nature. We really have been dominating nature and dominating each other, and we've just forgotten that we're all one with everything, and we have to do unto others as we have them do to us. And because of that, we've created suffering, and we've created fear, and we've created all of these paradigms that the human consciousness is really not naturally meant to experience. Because the human consciousness is God's consciousness, and God is convinced that he's all-powerful, and he can do anything. And every human being who has been put into this situation where they feel like they're not all-powerful, they can't do anything, they have to live under certain parameters and all this stuff. Well, it's not true, but it is something that we've come to believe because the way in which the universe has fallen off into this thing, and belief creates reality. And millions and billions of people all believing the same thing will shape reality into a certain thing. Gradually, pieces of reality start to break off, start to realize what it really is, starts to change reality and what is possible within reality. And things begin to become expansive. And because we have been in this rut for so long, the true expansion of this earth will be this beautiful spiritual renaissance that will carry us for millions of years, I believe. With us remembering, as we enjoy something, didn't always used to be like this. Look at this, you're supported. Look at this, you're loved. Look at this, you have everything you need. Look at this, you're strong. Look at how great the food is. Look at how wonderful the relationships are. It wasn't always like this. It makes them feel so much better. It's when you've had a bad experience to offset the good experience that you more fully and deeply appreciate the good experience. And that's why it has been allowed to go this way, go to this place here on earth. I was supposed to say something about God, but I don't remember what it was now. Well, maybe I'll come back to it. So let's get to the real point of this episode here, because I've been thinking about this. Well, I've been making my list of sort of the inevitable feelings. And, and these are the three as of right now. But I'm trying to add to it because I want to, sort of, if I was going to do a follow-up class to universal laws, the Hermetic principles that I like to teach, the 13 universal laws, it would be this. It would be the inevitable lessons. What are the inevitable lessons? So we see that through time and scope, that now is a necessity. We see through the connection of all things that treating everything like it's you, like it's a part of you, like it's an extension of you, is a necessary lesson. There's nothing you can do to avoid these lessons. Eventually they will come. Even they say, and I talked about this a little bit in the Law of One, the raw material episode that I did, that there are a certain percentage of beings, a tiny percentage, that will basically crystallize into like purely selfish beings. But even they go through a major crossing. They cross over a certain threshold, like they skip certain dimensions, and they move straight into a higher dimension. I don't remember if it was 6 or 7 or whatever it might be, where they just go from 0 to 60 of like recognizing that they're one with the thing, and then they do eventually get with the program and become a part of the wave that we're all riding. We're all dancing to the same song. That's where we're going. We're going to a place where we are all knowingly dancing to the same song. Now, why would we do that? And, a couple things. I'll tell you something that kind of terrified me. When I was working with the plants over the past 6 months, I had a moment of realization that kind of frightened me. And a lot of this really frightened me. And but this was very real. And I realized that I liked conflict. I didn't want to give it up. Like they say that you say tomato, I say tomato, tomato, tomato. Like I liked contrary thought, contrary things. The idea of going with the flow and just completely letting myself go where other people were going. And granted, part of that is my nature of, the flow of this reality is not right. And there's a part of me working against it. But that came even down to the idea of being afraid of certain things. Like to relax seemed boring. To be up in arms over every little thing and ready to fight and attack every little thing, that seemed like being an active participant in my existence. And at the moment, I couldn't imagine what the idea of just kind of going with the flow would be. Seemed a little boring. Granted, my spiritual guidance for my spirits while I was having this experience was that, trust us, there is another side of things where you have a sort of Deadpool-like fourth wall breaking understanding of some of the things that are going on. But ultimately you're recognizing that it's good to go with the flow and be entrained with the system and the dance. And that from that place is the option of the dance and also the option to do other things and to think other things. And you are in control and you are appreciating being able to do the dance and stop the dance and go the dance. And it's just like a whole nother level of appreciation. And even as I say that, you're the one who gets to turn it on, turn it off. That kind of shows me a little something about what the next level of consciousness is. Instead of being the person who's in charge of what we're afraid of, you get to be the person in charge of turning the vibrator on. Ooh, that's nice. That makes my shoulders feel really nice. That's nice. Okay, turn it off. Okay, now it's like no vibrator. Okay, put the vibrator back on. That alone is a major power within this matrix, and a major source of enjoyment. I said earlier, I don't know exactly what it is, this reality, what it looks like when we're living it from this fourth wall, or maybe I didn't say earlier, from this fourth wall breaking perspective, where I perceive a shitload of aspects of God, and the way the universe works that I'm not perceiving right now. But I am not fighting, like not doing a tug of war with aspects of my reality. I don't want to go to that place. That's where bad people are, and they could rob me, or somebody could kill me if I get into a car accident. I don't want to jump out of a plane. That's scary. There's nothing scary. I'm going with the flow. The flow is great. The flow is always bringing me to the place I want to be in, and I'm the one who's in control of the flow. Oh, no, it's too much for me. Less. Okay, more. And I can see, kind of in this glimmer of this moment, I could see a little bit of why that would be nice. Now, when I went through this experience, and particularly I had sort of done 3, maybe 4 or 5 sessions, Sunday night sessions out here in New York, and then and they were weird bits of the oneness with different dimensions and lots of different aspects of our reality that are kind of crazy to me, including one that I will share with you real quick, because this one is one that I have figured out at least 3 times, maybe 4 times. The other times I had done it on psilocybin. On psilocybin, I was able to perceive this, and I hated it so much that I made myself forget. I didn't like what I learned, and I decided, I don't need to remember that. And that was that part of things in this matrix in particular, but I think similar in other realities outside of this computer matrix that we live in. It is known, or let me say it like this. One of the highest forms of wisdom is to recognize how fun it is to be surprised, to be shocked, to have a moment of fear. The more you know, the more you perceive, the more you understand, the less mystery there is in everything. My level of mystery, and you'll be getting there with me in just a second, is relatively low on a lot of levels. Day to day, moment to moment, what am I going to say next? I don't know. And it is sort of nice getting onto the show, putting a microphone in front of me, and I start to talk. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to have all the words to speak to you guys about the subject that I'm talking about, but then I do. And as it comes out of me, especially when I'm having a good show, like today, I think I did good. Sometimes I'll feel like, I don't know if I explained that as nicely as I would like to. But today I feel nice about it. And each moment is a moment of discovery and newness that is worthwhile. I once played Mario Brothers, the original Nintendo NES one, the gray system with the cartridges. There was a thing at the time when it first had come out called the Game Genie. The Game Genie, you would plug it into the bottom of the gray cartridge, and then you'd put that, or a gold cartridge if you're a Zelda fan like me, and then you'd put that into the Nintendo with the Game Genie plugged into the system first, and then the game plugged into the Game Genie. Now, the Game Genie came with a book, and you would turn to the page that had the name of the game, and then there would be codes to make certain effects happen in the game. Some of them could be like aesthetic things, change your characters, things like that. But a lot of them were like actual augmentations to the game. So, case in point with Mario, there was something called the Moonwalker. I could make my character moonwalk. He could jump along the top of the screen, thus avoiding all the bad guys. So, I put in the code to the Moonwalker. And from board number 1, I start jumping up to the jump. And now I'm up at the top of the screen. If you've played Mario, you know that for the most part, there's like nothing that goes up to the top of the screen. Except there are these like Hammer Brother guys who like throw some hammers. They're basically the only thing that can even like remotely get you. And, being able to jump up, I mean, like, you can get through that. You can get a mushroom before you go there. You can easily take apart anything in this game with this jump. And, there's warp things warp pipes. You can basically beat Super Mario Brothers in, I don't know, a half an hour, something like that. Maybe less, going through, all the warps. Just jump. So I did it. Jump, all the way to the end. The feeling that I had when I won was a real weird one. On some level, I was like excited I beat the thing. But mostly, I just felt like shit. I beat the game without any effort. And it was all over now. I didn't play Super Mario Brothers again for like years. That was the last time I played it. Until I was like a teenager. And I came back around and, played it normal. And I was happy to play it normal. But the Game Genie ruined the game. The ability for me to just like bypass the whole thing made it suck. So this realization on plant medicine that I made myself forget was that the journey of the wise man, the learned man, the man like me who wants to understand all aspects of reality, was to come into understanding of what reality really was, and then choose to forget all the things that it learned because it was more fun when it was less predictable. It's more fun when it's more surprising. It's more fun when you're scared sometimes. And that brings us in to our lesson for today. Even though today's lesson you've been learning it all day, this is the pinnacle. I used to think that faith was like an option, something you can choose. It's not. It's an inevitable lesson to have faith. I didn't understand until I started having these God experiences while I was on marijuana. And it really happened, I think, for the first time in California when I went out there to hang with my girl. And change of the energy over there or whatever was, I don't know, more in keeping with the natural hum of reality. And they were able to get some experiences to me that I would call some measure of being God. And by this I mean, I was perceiving, and that's what I wanted to teach you about God, yes. I was perceiving the beginning, the middle, and the end all at the same time. And what I was seeing was that from God's perspective, nothing inherently has any meaning. Meaning is derived from you and I as we experience the things in the moment. And the various meanings and love and affection and thought that we give to the things, they lead to the other things. The perception that we have now is based directly on the perceptions that we've built up over time. And those perceptions continue to evolve and form into sort of this forward moment in the now, progressing based on yesterday, but really based on the now. The now is always progressing us forward. It's always building our perceptions, our consciousness. From God's perspective, God is experiencing things through us and with us. But it's got the future and it's got the end. And it knows that we could have perceived things differently. We could have perceived things in other configurations. The only reason why it matters to God that we perceived it the way we did is because of the various experiences and joy and love that we got to experience that while we were experiencing it. And God appreciates that He gets to experience that with us. But God is experiencing you and me and this stuffed animal and couch that are next to me and my computer and the animals and the air and the fire and the water. It's perceiving every experience simultaneously. And it's also perceived because there's no time. There's a stacking. So, there's certain information that's held or whatever. But God is perceiving it all at once. Just try to imagine that. Imagine you're living your life, I'm living my life. It's a little easier when me and you are doing the same thing. I'm doing the podcast, you're listening to the podcast, but even that, like I'm doing the podcast and God's perceiving me. And then no matter when all of you are listening to the podcast, you're being perceived, that's being perceived. And in this moment, we're like sort of one, because here I am recording it, here you are listening to it later. But now we're not doing the podcast. I'm making comics. You're making dinner. You're fighting fires. You're policing the thing. You're digging for gold. You're making love to your wife. You're having an argument with your wife. All of these things are happening at once. At the height of my God experience, I was experiencing a lot of aspects of our reality all at once. And it was making my reality a lot smaller. It was helping me to appreciate the now even more so than I ever did, which is why we talked about that first on the lead up. It was helping me to appreciate every sort of trouble I made for myself, because I realized that on some level I was making those troubles for myself because I was enjoying being in trouble. Because I didn't know, like peace seemed like boring or not something I would enjoy as much. But as I was seeing all these things, all aspects of time, and like knowing inevitably where we're going, and I still know that. Inevitably where we're going. I talked a little bit about inevitably where we're going, and on some levels, some of what I had seen at that time was taken away, and that is good because I begged them to. I was shown so much, and I'd seen so much. I was literally asking them, please, can you decide for me what is important for me to remember and what I can forget, so that I can enjoy my life the best, because I see that perception is how I'm enjoying my life to begin with. Oh, being surprised is nice. Oh, yes, I get it. Can you take away some of the things that you've just shown me now so that I can get the most out of my experience? And God said to me, yes, that's actually the whole plan. That is what we're doing all the time. To have all this information that we've just given you now, Jesse, you see, it adversely affects your existence. To know everything is too much. And on some level, I need you, the being that isn't knowing everything, the being that we've carefully curated what it will know and what it doesn't know, what will be a surprise and what won't be. You are having a much better experience than God is having, than I'm having. But I get to have that experience with you. And yes, on the other side of things, you and I are in cahoots, figuring out exactly what you'll know, what you won't know, what you'll be able to perceive, what you won't be able to perceive, when this will change, when that will change, so that you can get the most out of your existence that you possibly can. That is what is going on. We have already worked it out with you so that you will have the best time possible and get where you need to go. And that's the tricky part, getting where you need to go. Like so many of these lessons, there are various things that got me to the point where I was open enough to be able to get these lessons. And I'm sure you guys have had various things that have brought you to the place where you're open enough to listen to a show like this. So that became so wait a second. So does that mean that faith is inevitable? It's necessary. It's not, you gotta have faith, buddy. You just have faith. No, it's in order for you to enjoy this place the most, you gotta have faith. If you want to enjoy existence the most, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Live in the now and have faith that you are part of the larger apparatus, and the larger apparatus knows best. I have been scared straight. I searched for things, I was seeking, and I got what I asked for. I got that this entire existence, it's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. We could choose anything at any given point in time, and throughout various points in history, backwards or forward, you will find a point that looks nothing like this. Nothing. This has nothing to do with it. Nothing, absolutely nothing. You'll be like, what the fuck is this? This is nothing like I've ever experienced. Yeah. And because of that, because of this is like the perfect choice, infinite choice of the moment, and because this thing that makes all the things has to know everything in order to make all the things, and knowing everything literally fucks up the entire idea of perception, which is an idea of limiting what you are understanding, perceiving, knowing, whatever else, to the four walls around you and the things that are right in front of you, so that you can get the most rich experience out of that and not be distracted by the things that make it meaningless. And ultimately, it's not meaningless. Nothing is meaningless as long as you're here to enjoy it and care about it and love it. And, they told me, I was so freaked out by so many of these lessons, but they just kept telling me, just trust us, like becoming one and being a part of the flow. You get to turn the faucet on and off. There are aspects of this that you are in control of, and you will appreciate it. And you will like it way better when you're in harmonic alignment than when you were imagining everybody as your possible enemy and nervous about the world around you. The world around you is you in various configurations. And the world around you is being coordinated with not just you, but every other individual, every blade of grass, every piece of everything. We are all in cahoots with God. And the faster we can all legitimately have faith that we are being given just enough to best enjoy, appreciate our existence, the faster we really genuinely will begin to do that in a very deep way. I was frightened into faith because I realized that I had been given information that I didn't want to handle. I needed somebody smarter than me with more information than me, and the only one in existence who can do it is God. And I already know that I had previously had information that was freaking me out, that I didn't want to have. I asked them to take it away, and you be in charge of this information, please. And there are certain pieces of information that I have. The big picture I have. I could talk to you guys about the big picture as we've been talking about the big picture. But the small picture, the day-to-day, I don't need to live in fear. I trust that it's all for my highest good. And I am hoping that having this long conversation about it all, that you guys out there will have an extra reason to live in faith as well. Because one, it feels great to be faithful, to know that things are going in the right direction. Now, however, I'm going to add something to this. Living in faith is a cooperation with God, because you have to know that because you're an aspect of God, that ultimately God is not looking to make you suffer, piss you off, hurt you any more than it has to. Sometimes there are situations that are set up karmically because of things you did to other people in other lives, energy that is unrequited within you that needs to be, transformed in one way or another. So sometimes things are going to come along that you don't prefer. Never allow a momentary circumstance to change your mind about this one thing, and that is that everything is always working out for your best interest. Everything is always working out to bring you as quickly as possible to your highest joy, to your highest state of love, to the better version of you existing. Just because to your perception things seem bad in a moment, like even these past 6 months, they were a nightmare. I hated everything about this thing. It was awful. I was begging God, please don't do this to other people exactly like you did it to me. I can think of a lot of different ways, orders and whatever else, that it could have been done that would have been easier. It was difficult. Even this most difficult spiritual experience of my life, now, going like 6 months later, it really feels like a gift. It feels like a complete gift. It feels like a moment of real, genuine, real fear. Something to really be afraid of. Let me be afraid of being able to perceive so much of my life that I don't appreciate any aspect of it. I can't focus or decide what I want to do, how I want to proceed. Too much information to enjoy it. That is the only thing you should really be afraid of. That's like, oof. Imagine you were burdened with so much information that you couldn't enjoy this, or you couldn't figure out why you should enjoy this. I mean, it's like that's stealing away the vital thing. If you're out there and you feel bad on any level, it's only because there's things you love that don't seem like they're working out. But hold on to that. Hold on to all those things that you love. Keep focusing on your love and why you love things. Keep being authentic and bringing yourself closer to God in the oneness and in the knowing of what you ultimately are. An idea, executing a program that is ever shifting and will continue to shift and will continue to change your perception. And be grateful that you are in cahoots with a higher being that is guarding you from knowing too much and is holding you in this safety harness of just enough perception to best enjoy your life and everyone and everything that's in it. I'm Jesse Blaze Snider, and you've been listening to Everything They Don't Want You to Know. And I beg you to do unto others as you would have them do to you, to live in the now, and to have faith, and to know that you do these three things for you and for me. We do it for each other. But it starts with you. And you can pull yourself out of the current paradigms and the current thought processes you currently have yourself in. And you can bring yourself to rest. The inside of my body, the anxiety that I used to carry, it has really quieted. I would say basically it's gone away. There's a little bit of like leg shaking here or there when I'm like in the mood to do something, because I've been doing that for so long. It's an old pattern that's still there. But deep inside me, in my bones, I have chilled out. And it feels good. It feels really good. And I wish it for all of you out there who've been with me on this journey. I love you, and I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. I am launching a really cool solfeggio healing frequency album that is launching on Kickstarter on September 17th, 2 days before my birthday. There is the main record. I put this out through Spotify and iTunes and whatnot, but I'm making it in a physical CD. The first 1,000 CDs printed are going to be these gold, printed in gold. They're really cool. And the first 1,000 customers are going to get a free greatest hits CD as a free gift from me of like all the best music that I've ever made on every album that I've ever put out. You'll get that for free. And then this Covered in Flames CD, I think it's got like 7 covers that I've recorded over the years that mostly I haven't been able to release because you got to pay all this money to fucking release cover songs. But I'm just giving it out as a free gift. It's just free for me. I'm printing them and I'm giving it to you for free. I'm really excited to get these in your hands. There's also a really cool bonus CD that you can order. I think it's like $11 added onto your thing. It's called the Heart Record, and it's songs about my girlfriend, my kids, my mom, and a song that I wrote for my friends in general called The Song I Wrote. It's just a little something to get to know me better. This whole record was made using AI. I wrote every lyric. I wrote every melody. Most of these songs have been in existence for 10 years or more. Some of them 30 years old. These are some of my favorite songs that I've ever written in my life, but for whatever reason, I hadn't recorded them with a band, or most of them I hadn't ever. Hadn't recorded, definitely. Hadn't played them with a band. I use the AI the same way that I would get in a studio with a band until I figure out the proper support for the melody and the lyrics that I'm singing. The lyrics go to a melody, and the melody, are notes that I've formed. Okay, this is how it's going to be sung. In case in point, I always would say, "We're not going to take it," are the lyrics to the song. We're not going to take it, but the melody to the song is not, 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 na 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 na. That's the melody. So I wrote all the melodies. I wrote all the lyrics. When you get paid for writing music, that's what you get paid for: the lyrics and the melody. Technically speaking, when I put together songs with bands, I don't have to pay them legally. Like I don't have to give them writer ownership. I always do with my bands because, they would help me make it wonderful. But the songs have been written. And I've used the AI to produce them as demos, and I did it for myself initially. I made them in healing frequencies because I always wanted to do that, and it was really difficult to do with a band. But at a certain point in time, I had like this pool of all these different healing songs that I had made, and I just went, I want to make this available to other people. All the healing music that you find is just om and like humming and stuff, chanting. And I thought, this is so cool because, I was using it for those purposes, just being able to have some pop music, rock music, blues and soul on in the background that was actually like harmonic frequencies. It was just such a cool thing to do. I really thought, this could help so many people. My buddy says, I'm doing Reiki now. I'm going to use your CD in my practice. And that's really cool. And over time, this is my first album here is Solfeggio Transmissions Volume 1. Which is just a mix of every solfeggio frequency, each one of the 9 done one time, and then there's an opening and closing track in 432 frequency, which is the frequency that's most harmonic with the human body. If you haven't studied frequency before, 432 is like the main one that's most important. That is the harmonic nature tone. When they used to tune churches and the church organ, it would all be tuned to 432. The music industry famously changed it many years ago to 440, which is a disharmonic frequency. And all the music that they put out is in a disharmonic frequency. So I'm trying to make some music that's like the type of music that everybody would normally be listening to, but in healing frequencies. So please, if there's anybody that that you think would be into this, you send them over to the campaign. There's some other really cool things attached to the campaign, but I'm going to move on to other subjects. But go to Kickstarter right now. If you type in Jesse Blaze Snider, I think it'll come up, but also you can type in Solfeggio frequency music, that'll get you there, or the Blacklight District Studio Kickstarter page, that'll get you there. If you just go to the Blacklight District Studio page, you'll also find the page for Sugar and Bones magazine, which will hopefully be launching in a little less than 3 months. After this campaign ends, we'll be going into that, and then we'll be going into the hemp plastic, hemp toys thing that we've been talking about for a while. So I've got a series of Kickstarter things. If you want to be on this journey with me for real, and be owners of some of these cool fucking artifacts and relics and shit that I'm making. I mean, this is all really cool and important stuff that'll, that has the vibration of the future Earth. And I'm really just trying to push this needle through this this piece of fabric and pierce the veil for everybody and give them some really truly new ways of looking at their reality through music, through stories, and even through toys in a different form. So I'm so happy to be here on this earth. I've never been more grateful and more present in the now and more faithful. And I know all of this stuff that's happened to me and all the stuff that's happened to you. I know it's all exactly as it's meant to be, and it's a weirdo fucking process though. And I am so grateful to all of you people who are here on this journey with me, who have listened to every episode of this show and listen regularly. I love you. I love you very much, and I love everybody. But I really have a deep appreciation for you guys who are supporters of my shows. I thank you so much for listening. If you haven't checked out my podcast for music, which is All Your Favorite Bands Suck, we only did 55 episodes before Spotify shot us down because we played for too much music of the other bands. But 55 of my favorite bands, all sorts of different music genres. You want to get into some new music, check out All Your Favorite Bands Suck everywhere but Spotify. Every Wednesday and Saturday, I do Coolest Geek Alive. On Saturdays, I do Coolest Picks of my favorite recent TV shows and classic TV shows and classic films and TV. And then Wednesdays, I talk about some of my favorite larger fandoms and tear apart the current entertainment establishment for whatever it is they might be saying or doing that is ridiculous at the moment. But yeah, I love doing this. I love doing my podcast. I love talking to you guys. I love being on this journey. And I love hearing from you. If you ever want to reach out to me, I'm Jesse Blaze at jessesnider.com. And I'm also on Facebook. I have a personal page that I actually use, my professional page. I barely go on it. I don't go on Twitter anymore, even though I have a page. I don't go. My friend's about to start my TikTok for me. Like, I don't really use any of that stuff, but my personal Facebook I still use sometimes. Anyway, I think that covers everything. I love you guys so much. I thank you for checking out this show, and I hope you will join me again next Monday for another, hopefully, mind-blowing episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Love you. Care Bear Stare. See you next time. Peace.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
It's not a matter of time, sure as the blaze in your eyes. I sense a subtle shift, instincts I can't resist, weary of wolves in disguise.